Okay. Excuse me. Welcome back, everyone. Oh my God, pardon me. So, this week we're gonna finish up our conversions with chapter 12, the next chapter. So, we're gonna be covering two chapters in one, and then we're gonna be working first on temperature and time. So, we're going to go ahead and familiarize ourselves with Fahrenheit and Celsius, and then, of course, go ahead and look in the world of time, discussing the 24-hour clock, which is something in the healthcare system is used. So, first things first, Fahrenheit and Celsius. So, Fahrenheit is something that we are much more familiar with living in the United States, since that is what we use to measure time. And of course, Celsius is basically the rest of the world. So both Fahrenheit and Celsius express temperature. So they are units of temperature. And then let me add the little circles because we mentioned degrees. So again, they both measure temperature. It's just they have their own system. However, nonetheless, we can convert between Fahrenheit to Celsius or Celsius to Fahrenheit, depending on what you need. So that implies that there's two formulas that we need to have. So to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius, so you're given some temperature in terms of Fahrenheit, but let's say you want to figure out, well, what is that equivalent measurement, but now measured in terms of Celsius? This is the formula that we're going to go ahead and use. So you would input the temperature given in Fahrenheit, plug it into the formula, subtract 32, find the difference, and then divide by 1.8, and then that would give you the equivalent temperature of what was given in Fahrenheit to now be given in Celsius. And then if we're going the opposite, so we were going first from Fahrenheit to Celsius, now we want to go, let's say, from Celsius to Fahrenheit, so we're doing a switch, we would undo everything what we did. So notice, instead of subtracting 32, we would add 32, and instead of dividing by 1.8, we would be multiplying by 1.8. So you would take the temperature given in terms of Celsius, find the product when multiplied by 1.8, and lastly take the sum of 32. And then that would be given, oh, why are my circles all messed up? My degrees. And then that would go ahead and give the temperature in Fahrenheit. So I will give these formulas on the final exam. However, please make sure you are familiarized with them because, again, just because I give you a formula doesn't mean you know what to do with it. So please make sure you are still familiarized. I did post practice problems, and on the homework you can see. So please just make sure you're going through and just being comfortable with these formulas. So let's look at some examples. So convert the temperatures. These will, a lot of times, if you notice, especially because this 1.8, a lot of the answers will be given in decimal. So that's where you want to make sure that you're okay with your division and your multiplication. Because again, remember, I do not allow calculators. So round to the 10th if necessary. I will always give you some rounding point. Okay, so notice for part A, we have 34 degrees Celsius. So that implies that we're given the temperature in terms of Celsius, and we want to now find what 34 Celsius is equivalently in terms of Fahrenheit. So if you notice, that means that we're going to go ahead and use the second formula here. So we're given the Celsius, we can multiply by 1.8, then add by 32. Remember orders of operations at the end of the day. And then we'll find who this F is, who this Fahrenheit is. So we're going to use this formula. Okay, so we have 1.8, one second, my iPad. We have 1.8 times who? Well, we're given 34 degrees. And then plus 32 will be equal to the temperature in Fahrenheit. And then let me just move over for room purposes. Do I have any more room? Oh, I can move this lower. Okay. Well, again, order of operations, I first have to figure out the parenthesis. So in this case, that means I have to find the product of 34 times 1.8. And this would be then, we can drop the parenthesis, 61.2 plus 32. So remember, if you need help on the multiplication, remember when it comes to multiplying decimals, you multiply just normally. Don't even look at the decimal points yet. That comes in last. And now we go step by step. So remember, we have 8 times 4. That gives a product of 32. So we carry the 3, drop down the 2. Then we have 8 times 3, which is 24, but plus our 3. That gives a sum of 27. Plus, now we're done with this 8. We're going to move on to this 1. Remember, whenever we move over by a place value, we indicate it with the amount of zeros. I don't like how I wrote that. Hold on. And now we have 1 times 4, which is 4, and 1 times 3 is 3. So once we go ahead and add that all up, we get 2 plus 0 is 2, 7 plus 4 is 11, carry the 1, 2 plus 3 is a sum of 5, but then lastly we have the plus 1, so that is where we get our 6 from. So now, once you complete the multiplication, remember we want to look at the factors of the decimal point. So notice 34 is a whole number. There are no numbers after the decimal, but 1.8 has 1, so that implies our answer will also have 1. So that is how we got our 61.2. And now we take that 61.2 and add it to Fahrenheit, and that then gives us 61.2 plus 32 is equal to 93.2 degrees. So that is our final answer. And that's it. So that would be our answer. So again, it's just a matter of deciding which formula to use and making sure to follow the arithmetic correctly. Okay, now we have one more. So notice we have 45.3 Fahrenheit given, and we want to find Celsius. So that means that we're going to use the first formula here. We're given Fahrenheit, then we have to go ahead and plug and chug into the formula, and then that will express the given answer in terms of Celsius. So here's our Fahrenheit, 45.3 degrees minus 32 divided by 1.8. And then that will express the equivalent temperature in terms of Celsius. So 45.3 minus 32 gives us a difference of 13.3. So we have 13.3 now divided by 1.8. Let's go ahead and look at some side work for that. So what that implies is, again, we're going to take 1.8 and divide it by 32.2. But remember, oh, where did I get 32.2 from? Oh my gosh. 13 divided by 13.3. But remember, when it comes to decimals, the number on the outside has to be a whole number. So that implies we have to move the number of decimals until until we have a whole number. So in this case, if we have 1.8, if we move it over by 1, we'll have 18. But remember, you have to do the same thing then in underneath the bar. So we'll have 18 divided by, or dividing 133. So in this case, 18 cannot go into 1, 18 cannot go into 3, or I'm sorry, 18 cannot go into 13, but 18 can go into 133 7 times, and 7 whole times. And then we go ahead, put our decimal point since it doesn't divide it perfectly. And then we can see that 18 times 7 gives us a product of 126. Once we go ahead and subtract 133 minus 126, we get a difference of 7, but since we don't have any numbers to use, we're going to pull down a 0 to help us out, and then we'll have 70, which 18 goes into 73 whole times. 18 times 3, oh, I wish I had more room. Then we have 18 times 3, 18 times 3 gives a product of 54. And then since we want to round to the 10th, we're just going to go ahead and keep going. So 70 minus 54 gives a product, or gives a difference of 16. But again, 18 cannot go into 16, so we're going to drop a 0. And 18 goes into 160 8 times. And then we can stop there. So in this case, then, we're going to have our temperature in Celsius. Remember, we want to round to the nearest tenth. So if we have 7.38, that implies our temperature then is 7.4. And that is our final answer. And that is it for our first video. So again, make sure you're familiarizing yourselves with this formula. Because again, I will be giving you these formulas, but at the end of the day, you're going to need your big brain to still figure it out. Okay, stay tuned.